Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Pagitt Radio. Hour 2 of our January 8th, 2012 edition.
Let's chat.
I'm in a particularly peppy mood because of the weather. It's easy. It's easy living. I mean, we live in the greatest state in the Union.
Yes.
And when you get a winter like this,
Oh, yeah.
there's just no downside.
Until next week when it crushes your spirit.
I know, but I got to tell you, I'm not one who gives winter a break. I'm not one who speaks.
You don't pamper winter.
I don't pamper winter because it doesn't deserve it. But at this point, I mean, we are getting there where you're going to be like 4 weeks of winter, 6 weeks of winter, maybe when it gets tough.
Survivable.
Oh, we can make this, especially if, like me, you have to leave on the 24th of January and be gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I got pep in my step when it comes to winter.
The pharmaceutical company's going to be taking a hit.
Oh, yeah. You know who's really hit hard by this winter? Strangely, I mean, I've only seen the upside. Like I think the guy who plows the property does some plowing for me.
Yeah.
I think he's probably not going to make it after this year, so I feel badly for him. But also the local hardware guy up the street from my house who owns his hardware store.
Yeah.
He said they're down 25%.
He sells that many snow shovels?
It's everything. It's snow shovels. It's ice melt. It's repairs on snowblowers.
Yeah.
All the winter stuff. The things that go over the windows. All of it. Killing him.
I'm really sorry about that.
He's had to let people go.
Wow.
You know, I can't employ you. I got no business. So I feel bad for him.
Well, you know what?
And now
I
I'm
don't
over
like
that
that guy now.
Oh, because you think he's a profiteer.
He's a profiteer. That's right. off a winner.
He's like the Halliburton of...
Exactly. He's just hoping for a killer, you know.
There's always
people starving in their homes so he can sell snowmobile parts.
That's right. No, he's a good man. All right. Hey, I noticed something interesting this week that I think is worth a conversation to kick off the 2012 year and this radio program. And also the conversation about politics in our country over this next year. Because every 4 years, we have a different kind of conversation about politics. And this year, I think it's going to strike religion particularly different. So I thought it would be worth our conversation for this hour to have a little chat about this. And here's what I noticed. The Republican nomination for president, which is a silly, the way we do this doesn't make any sense, right? Like you got to have a lot of money and it's the strangest way to pick a president.
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying I have a better one, but this one, Goofsville. Okay. So I get the fact. I mean, starting in Iowa and then going to New Hampshire and then going to South Carolina.
110,000 people. I mean, it's just.
I mean, really, it's quirky, right? Okay. But what I did notice when it comes to the religious impetus that was happening in Iowa versus New Hampshire.
Okay.
So if you know, and you've been paying attention to these things, I know many of the listeners to this program would have already, they would have noticed that in Iowa, you had to have a certain kind of religious accent, a certain kind of religious vocabulary, a certain kind of religious ethos in order to do well there.
As a politician, you had to promote or profess a certain as a religious viewpoint.
At least as a Republican nominee.
Yes, absolutely.
You had to have the religious folks of Iowa be on your side if you're going to do well. And so that goes all the way back to Pat Robertson was the case. That goes all the way that was Huckabee a few years ago.
Yeah.
That was clearly Santorum this year. That people are all going for that, which is why Michelle Bachmann wanted to be in there and Tim Pawlenty and all these people, right? Okay, then they go to New Hampshire a week later, and the vote's going to be there this coming Tuesday in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And there aren't religious people
not
like
an
that.
Overly religious place.
There aren't even the Republicans. They're not.
No.
They're not evangelicals. They're not conservatives. They're not into the marriage amendment. They're a different kind.
Yeah.
And what it pointed out, and I think this is interesting, is it pointed out the regional nature, not only the regional nature of politics, but the regional nature of religion. And I think it's good for people to know and understand that religion as a dynamism in our country is not univocal. It's not the same everywhere.
Yes.
Instead, you have these regional expressions where different kinds of Christianity are in play, where people express a different kind of Christianity than they would in other places. So in our large, complex country, let alone around the world, religion is not a singular expression. Even Christianity is not a singular expression.
Give you an example. I'm originally from the St. Louis area. When I moved up here to pastor, I was aghast to discover that during the summertime, that a lot of people didn't go to church because they were out at the lakes.
Oh, yeah, right.
And to me, I thought that was just weakness and just not a true commitment until I lived here for a couple of years. And then I'm like, let's just take the whole summer off.
Yeah, right.
Right? So that's something that would be unacceptable in the southern part of the country, that up here, you have very devout people going, look, I'm going to the lake.
And what people tend to do is they tend to think that their experience is normative, which is fine. I mean, we all do that everywhere, right? Like, I assume that the things that I've experienced in my life are going to be consistent with someone his experience who lives in another part of the state, other part of the country. But as it turns out, that's very rarely the case. As it turns out, religion is particular. And here's one of the problems that I have with the way that religion gets talked about by the non-religious and the over-religious. Because I think there's two groups that talk about religion in the same way. The hyper-religious people and the non-religious or religiously opposed people.
All right, where are you going with
this? I think they end up talking about religion in this univocal fashion, as if all those religious people or all those conservatives or all those Christians. Now, both the hyper-religious people, because they tend to think, well, if you were really a Christian, if you were really an evangelical, if you were really a progressive, then you would think about it the way that I do.
Yeah.
So they also have this notion that everywhere there's going to be people like them who think about it the way that they do. And then the non-religious, because trying to traffic and move in the economy of religious conversation is complex, ends up flattening all of the dynamism, and you end up talking about they end up talking about religion as if it's the same everywhere. Well, Christians or conservative Christians, because you can have in New Hampshire a conservative person that's Christian, that has a really different understanding of God and Christianity and Jesus and politics than someone in Iowa.
Yeah.
The label of a conservative who is a Christian or even a conservative Christian is not the same. These regional dynamisms are so important. They come up all over the place, highlighted by the fact that for us, our celebration of Christmas in the United States, for most people in the United States, was December 25th.
Right.
Because it always is. But there is a third of Christians in the world who celebrated Christmas 2 days ago.
Oh.
The Orthodox, the Coptics, like in Iraq, the people in the northern part of Iraq.
Yeah.
Just celebrated Christmas because they're on a different calendar. The Orthodox Church, the Eastern Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, they just had Christmas. Somebody might have been driving around by Lake Calhoun here in the Twin Cities at the Orthodox Church up there on the hill. And they're like, what are they doing? Are they a little late on Christmas? It's because in Christian tradition, there have been different calendars. Some people follow the Western calendar. Some people follow the Eastern calendar. Well, that has been normative. It's not just like, well, in your 21st century postmodern culture, you have these religious differences, and that's really changed the scope of religion in the world. It's been this way for 2,000 years. There have been these really disparate expressions of Christian religiosity.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a little Christian history lesson for people who are interested in this kind of thing.
Oh,
the reason that the Bible includes 4 gospel narratives, sometimes known as the Gospel of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that go by those names. Yeah. The reason there are 4 is because 4 different communities at 4 different periods of time were all trying to write a gospel narrative. From the beginning of the expression of Jesus following that we now call Christianity, there were regional and ethnic and situational differences when it comes to religion. It's always been that way, right? And there's always been this dynamism, this complication, this argument amongst those varying perspectives. And I think it's good for people to be reminded that religion, or Christianity in this country, and Islam and Judaism and Baha'i and Buddhism, like every religious tradition, has a massive amount of dynamism within it. There's always a difference in where it's being done, by whom, and at what time.
So why do you think that the media has chosen not to see those differences or express them? Do you think it's because it's just easier to report on it if it's just one big glob?
Well, let me tell you who I blame it on.
Okay.
The hyper-religious people.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
because it's complicated to transverse all of the regional, ethnic,
nuances.
Time nuances. It's difficult to do. So when the most religious people also reinforce the idea, real Hindus, Buddhists, Muslims, Christians are like me.
Yeah.
That's what then people are like, oh, well, then that must be what it's like. So I don't think it should be the job of the least religious
to
show the difference. I think it's the job of the most. And so my critique goes out as a practitioner of religion and as a Christian person. It goes out to the people who are most religious.
Yeah.
And I think that those of us who consider ourselves to be part of the religious system should be the ones who are saying, look, it's really different depending on where you are.
Yeah.
Depending on the expression and the time that you're making those statements, that's who should carry the responsibility. To ask someone who's not particularly interested in religion to tell you the intricacies of it seems to be a little, it seems to be outsourcing one's responsibilities.
It'd be interesting to have the rabbi on at one time to talk about, like, how do Jews of different religious types, how do they view each other?
Oh, very good. Yeah, we'll do that. He was talking about being on today, but he's still in Amsterdam.
Oh, my.
So if he makes it back and his head's in any good space after a couple of weeks in Amsterdam, we'll have the rabbi on, and we'll ask him about that, because it is true in every religious expression.
Sure.
And so at least the story around here is going to be that the religious radio that's not quite right says, hey, I got a take on it, but so do lots of other people.
Yes.
And that's how we ought to understand our religion. And when we come back, we're going to talk about this Imagine song controversy. You might not even know it, but there's a big one. So we'll talk about it when we come back. Nick Pagitt Radio on AM 950, nickpagitradio.com.